Hey, basketball fans, welcome back to Tips and Streams, your go-to spot for the hottest NBA regular season predictions. I'm Kokan, and I'm here to break down today's matchups and give you the edge you need to make the best bets. Before we dive in, make sure you hit that subscribe button and like this video. Your support means the world to us. Remember, our channel has no sponsors and relies solely on the love and support of viewers like you. Even a small donation by pressing the thanks button under the video helps us keep bringing you top-notch content every day. Don't forget to share this video with your friends and fellow basketball enthusiasts. And we love hearing from you, so drop a comment below and let us know what you want to see in our forecasts. Your feedback helps us improve and bring you the content you crave. Let's jump right into today's NBA predictions. We've got some exciting games lined up, so stay tuned and let's get that winning streak going. Today, we have predictions for 4 NBA games. The first prediction for today is for a game between the Washington Wizards and Miami Heat. All right, we've got the Washington Wizards heading to Miami to take on the Heat, and while neither of these teams is exactly lighting up the standings, there are still some interesting angles to look at here. First up, let's talk about the Wizards. Sitting dead last in the Eastern Conference at 11-48, this season has been tough. But they've managed to string together a couple of wins recently, with a solid 113-100 win over the Charlotte Hornets. The Wizards may be the league's bottom feeders, but don't sleep on them just yet. They've had moments of competitiveness, and it's been mostly because of Jordan Poole's 21 points per game. However, it's worth noting that Poole didn't even play in the Charlotte game, and yet the Wizards still came away with the win. That tells you a lot about how they can perform when their other pieces get going. Chris Middleton is stepping up, as he did in that Hornets game with 17 points, and younger guys like Bilal Coulibaly and Alex Sarr are continuing to develop. The Wizards' offense is starting to find its rhythm, even if they're still the worst in the league overall. They've got enough firepower to stay in the game, and you can't forget about Richaun Holmes, who's been a nice spark off the bench. On the flip side, the Miami Heat have been a bit more stable, but still hard to trust at times. They've got a 33-24 record and sit at 7th in the East, but they've been inconsistent in their recent stretch. They've won 3 out of their last 5, but they also had a rough patch before that, losing 5 of 6. Tyler Herro has been playing like a guy determined to prove himself, averaging 24.1 points, 5.4 rebounds, and 5.7 assists, putting the team on his back at times. Duncan Robinson has also stepped up in the scoring department with back-to-back games of over 20 points. But even with that offensive firepower, the Heat still have some flaws. Their offense isn't all that efficient, ranking just 18th in the league, and their defense, while decent, can be prone to lapses. Miami does have some nice role players like Jamie Jaquez, who's been solid off the bench, and Kel'el Ware, who's been dominant on the boards, but they've struggled to put everything together on a consistent basis. The Heat might have a bit of an edge overall, but they're still very beatable. Now, when you look at the spread, Miami is a big favorite here, but I'm not sold on them covering that 10-point spread. The Wizards may be the underdogs, but they've been more competitive recently, especially with Poole finding his rhythm and the team playing more fluidly without him in the lineup. Miami has been up and down, especially when they face teams like Washington, who they really should be handling. But we've seen the Heat struggle with covering big spreads all season. They've been decent at home, but they haven't exactly been a consistent team to bet on when it comes to covering large numbers. The Wizards are definitely good enough to keep it close, especially with the way they've been playing recently. So, I'm leaning toward the Wizards covering the 10-point spread here. The Heat may get the win, but I'm sure the Wizards will stay within that 10-point range and maybe even pull off a backdoor cover. If you're making a play on this game, go with Washington to cover.
Welcome to BetUS, Sportsbook and Casino, your ultimate hub for secure and thrilling sports betting and casino gaming. BetUS is one of the oldest and most reliable online sportsbooks in the U.S., serving millions of clients all over the globe each month. BetUS, trusted for over 30 years, offers huge welcome bonuses, countless betting options, and many deposit and payout methods. Depositing funds is a breeze and safe, with a minimum deposit of just $10. Payouts are fast and hassle-free, beginning at only $50. Choose from various payout options like MoneyGram, couriered check, cryptocurrency, or bank wire. Signing up is quick and easy. For signing up, you can use the link in the description and enjoy a generous 125% welcome bonus of up to $3,000. By signing up using the link in the description, you'll also support us as we earn a small commission from your registration at BetUS. Thank you for supporting us. Join now and start winning.
The second prediction for today is for a game between the Atlanta Hawks and Memphis Grizzlies. Looking at this matchup between the Grizzlies and Hawks, it's clear both teams are facing some ups and downs. Memphis, with a solid 38-22 record, has been a top contender in the West, but they've had a bit of a rough patch lately. Their recent 130-128 loss to the San Antonio Spurs was tough to swallow, especially with key guys like Ja Morant and Desmond Bane sitting out. Jaren Jackson Jr. went off for 42 points in that game, but the Grizzlies' struggles without Morant were apparent. Morant's return is huge, though, as he's the guy who makes everything click for Memphis on both ends. His playmaking ability and defensive prowess are what they'll need to get back on track and make a push for a higher playoff position. On the flip side, the Hawks have had a rough season, sitting at 27-33 and clinging to a play-in spot. They got smacked by the Oklahoma City Thunder in their last game, 135-119, and they've been leaking points all season long. The defensive woes for Atlanta have been tough to watch. They've given up a ridiculous number of points in their recent games, 135 to OKC, 148 to Detroit, and a whopping 149 to the Knicks. Their defense is seriously broken, and that's a major problem when you're going up against a team like Memphis. Sure, Trae Young can put up points, but his lack of defensive effort has been a liability, leaving them vulnerable on that end of the floor. Memphis, as we know, is one of the fastest teams in the league, and they love to push the tempo. They're ranked number 1 in pace this season, and when they're running and gunning, it's hard for teams to keep up, especially teams like the Hawks, who haven't exactly been shutting anyone down lately. With Morant back in the lineup, Memphis will be even tougher to handle, and Jaren Jackson Jr. has been a beast recently, lighting it up in the paint. The Hawks are ranked 26th in paint points allowed, which is music to Memphis ears. If they get downhill early, they'll pile on the points and take control of this one. Even though Atlanta's had some time to rest, having not played since Friday, I just don't see how they can hang with Memphis in this one. Their defense is just too leaky, and while they can score, they can't stop anyone. The Grizzlies are deeper, more balanced, and should be able to run circles around Atlanta, especially with Morant in the mix. I fully expect Memphis to cover the 7-point spread here. They're the better team overall, and with the Hawks struggling to get stops, it feels like an uphill battle for them. I'm taking Memphis to take control early and close this one out strong. Before we move on, I have a quick favor to ask. If you're enjoying the content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Subscribing might seem like a small action, but it actually makes a big impact for us. Plus, it's completely free for you. Have you clicked that subscribe button? Awesome, thank you so much for your support. Now let's dive back into the video. The third prediction for today is for a game between the Houston Rockets and Oklahoma City Thunder. Alright, we've got the Houston Rockets heading into Oklahoma City to take on the Thunder in what looks like a tough matchup for Houston. Oklahoma City has had their number recently, leading the head-to-head series 123-118 and winning 6 of the last 10 encounters, including both games at home this season. In fact, the Thunder's been rolling at home, and they've already taken 2 out of 3 games against the Rockets this season, including a solid 126-107 win back in November. Now, OKC is absolutely cruising right now, with only 2 losses in their last 10 games. Sitting pretty at the top of the Western Conference with a 49-11 record, they've solidified their status as the team to beat. With the best defense in the league and a top 5 offense, they're well-rounded and tough to crack. The star of the show, as always, is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. This guy is putting up 32.3 points a game, dishing 6.1 assists, and grabbing 5.5 boards, all while being an MVP frontrunner alongside Jokic. What makes this team so dangerous is that it's not just one player. Each guy on the roster contributes in meaningful ways, and that balance has been key to their success. On the flip side, Houston's been a bit of a roller coaster. Injuries and absences have made it hard for them to field a fully healthy squad, and it's showing. They're coming off a 113-103 loss to Sacramento, where their offense just couldn't get in rhythm. They've still got a solid 37-23 record, sitting 5th in the West, but there's been too much inconsistency for them to truly contend right now. Alperen Sengun's been one of the few bright spots, continuing to impress after his All-Star nod, but the shooting woes are real. Fred VanVleet had an awful game against Sacramento, and guys like Amen Thompson, Dylan Brooks, and Jalen Green didn't fare much better. They've got the 3rd best defense in the league, but when you're not clicking offensively, it's tough to compete with a juggernaut like OKC. The Rockets' win earlier this season against the Thunder was a bit of a nail-biter. They came out strong with a 33-28 lead in the first quarter and kept it close at halftime. But the second half saw them fall apart a bit, and while they mounted a comeback, it wasn't enough to get the W. Fred VanVleet played out of his mind that game with 38 points, and they shot the ball well from the free throw line. But in the end, they couldn't contain OKC's offense, and the Thunder took the game. Houston's going to need to start hot and shoot more efficiently if they're going to hang with this team, especially with someone like Gilgeous-Alexander on the floor. The Thunder, on the other hand, have been firing on all cylinders. In their last win against Houston, they came back from a deficit at halftime to blow the Rockets away. Shai was a monster again, putting up 32 points and getting to the line 15 times. Isaiah Hartenstein and Jalen Williams stepped up in a big way, and while the Thunder were out-rebounded, they made up for it with hustle plays, steals, and just locking down when they needed to. They've got a deep roster and a ton of weapons. If Shai can stay locked in and they play their typical brand of team ball, it's going to be tough for the Rockets to keep up. With Houston dealing with injuries, especially with Fred VanVleet out and a few other key guys questionable, I'm not sure they have the firepower to challenge OKC right now. The Thunder are a different animal at home, where they're 25-4 this season and have been winning games by comfortable margins. In fact, they've won their last 6 home games by at least 12 points. I just don't see the Rockets having enough to get this one done, especially with so many key players missing or uncertain. So, while I do think Houston can be a dangerous team on their best night, I'm not sure they have enough to take down this Thunder squad. Oklahoma City is clicking on all cylinders, and with Shai leading the charge, I'm confident the Thunder are going to extend their winning streak and cover the spread in this one. The fourth prediction for today is for a game between the Sacramento Kings and Dallas Mavericks. All right, here we go with the Dallas Mavericks versus Sacramento Kings, and I'm expecting this one to be a bit of a showdown. The Mavericks have been struggling lately, and I'm sure the vibes in that locker room aren't the greatest right now. They've only snagged 1 win in their last 4 games, and even that was against the Charlotte Hornets, so it's been rough. Losing Luka Doncic has been a big blow to the offense. I mean, the guy was the heart and soul of that team, and now they're left with Kyrie Irving trying to carry a load that's just too heavy for one man. The problem is, there's not enough support from the other guys. Missing key players like Anthony Davis and Daniel Gafford hasn't helped either. The team just doesn't have the same edge they did when Luka was on the floor, and it's showing. On the flip side, the Sacramento Kings have been on a tear lately. They're on a 3-game win streak and have won 6 of their last 8, with a lot of those victories coming by double-digit margins. They've definitely found a new rhythm since the De'Aaron Fox trade, and honestly, this team feels like a different animal now. DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine have been lighting it up, and their offensive game has shifted in a way that makes them really hard to stop. Defensively, they've been playing solid ball too, holding opponents to just 88, 101, and 103 points in their last 3 games, so it's clear they've been doing their homework. But here's the kicker. Sabonis, who's been their guy inside, is dealing with a hamstring issue and is listed as day-to-day. That's a massive concern for the Kings. Without him, they lose a ton of size and playmaking in the paint, and that could really hurt their ability to control the boards, which is something Dallas could take advantage of. Without Sabonis, the Kings may struggle to establish that inside presence, and that gives the Mavs a small opening to make things happen in the post. Now, when we look at Dallas, they've been struggling to score lately. In their last 4 games, they've only been averaging about 105 points per game, which is a serious dip from their usual output. A lot of that is the Luka effect. They just haven't been able to put up points with the same efficiency without him running the show. And while the Kings do give up the 11th most points in the league, that's still not great news for a Mavs team that's struggling to find their rhythm. The offense just hasn't clicked, and Kyrie's been asked to do too much on his own. But like I said, the absence of Sabonis could allow Dallas to get a little more aggressive inside. The Kings have struggled on the boards lately, and if the Mavericks can exploit that, they've got a shot to keep this one competitive. The Kings are a tough team, but if Dallas can start hitting shots and finding ways to control the paint, they could push this one to the wire. So, looking at this matchup, I really think the Kings have the upper hand right now. They're playing their best ball of the season and have been blowing teams out, but the Mavs aren't out of this yet. Still, with Sacramento in full swing and the Mavericks reeling with injuries and a lack of scoring punch, I've got to lean towards the Kings to cover the spread here. Unless Dallas can rediscover their offense and find a way to dominate inside, I'm not sure they'll have enough to keep up with Sacramento. The Kings' depth and current momentum are just too strong right now. I think they'll take this one and cover the +2 spread with ease.